All right, we're going to start this last section, with an addendum to the previous section, which is, oh, hey, look, India's population is increasing, also because of irrigation and new crops, right? And urbanization, very similar to China. Doubling by 1500. Very impressive. Okay, last but not least, we're going to be looking at the Swahili coast. So we are going to cover most of Africa, like this part over here, Mali and Ghana, and this stuff up here will be covered with, or is covered with Islam, but we're going to be looking at this stuff over here, right? Great Zimbabwe, the Swahili city-states, and Axum. So, politically, this part of Africa is divided into city-states and kingdoms. The Bantu migrations, which started in this area here, and were moving this to southern reaches of Africa, spreading their language along the way, and during this time. And that leads to a period of, well, it doesn't lead to, but it continues this period of stability. Trade, as the Dar al Islam develops, trade strengthens in the Indian Ocean basin. And trade is also happening between these very rich Swahili city states and the interior kingdoms, like Great Zimbabwe here, and Axum, which was also trading with the Swahili city-states and the Indian Ocean basin on its own. There's Great Zimbabwe. You also have Kush, which is kind of in the mountains over here, and yeah, Axum is the other one. So economically, Africa is very interconnected with itself and also with the Indian Ocean basin, particularly because of this increase with the Dar al-Islam and this increased demand for luxury items. What are they bringing to the table? Ivory, gold, precious metals, other precious stones, and then a big thing is slaves. Slaves traded in the Indian Ocean basin to the Islamic caliphates because other Muslims could not be enslaved. So 10 million slaves are exported from the Swahili coast to the Indian Ocean basin. Socially, in Africa, women have the highest position of any society we've seen so far. So higher than South Asia, maybe equitable, or higher than Southeast Asia, because women were oftentimes merchants in Southeast Asia, and definitely higher than in China as well. There was no private property, so property was not owned by males, and instead people used ownership of humans or slaves to show wealth, and these slaves were then also traded. Religiously, Africa is really interesting because it's this mixture of Islam and traditional religions. And it's not either or, it's both, right? Islam in particular was taken on by political figures who would convert to Islam so in order to maintain stiff trade. So also you had a lot of economic merchants converting to Islam too. This Islam, again, mixed with traditional practices. So it wasn't either or, it was both. So people still did divination, looking at the future. They still oftentimes believed in spirits, but there was also this umbrella of Islam. And we'll see that this really makes some Muslim thinkers uncomfortable. Christianity was also very influential in Africa, in particular the kingdom of Axum. They created these are gravestones, these stelae. This is a person here, or they're symbols of graves. That's what they believe. But they're one solid piece of rock, and they are very impressive, and we'll be looking at videos of them. Also, other areas of Ethiopia were influenced by like Kush, and other areas that were closer to the Mediterranean continued to practice Christianity. They did not become Muslim. In addition, Again, because of expanding population, even with the slave trade, many people were moving to cities. And this cultural mixture extends only to um, not only with Islam, but also with Arab culture. Arab traders stayed in Swahili states for a whole season because of the monsoon winds. The monsoon winds are what make the Indian Ocean basin run. They are very important. The most valuable player in the Indian Ocean basin. So what that meant was that Arab men often took African wives or they took African women as families but didn't make them officially their wives, and that created a mixed people. And as we'll see, that Arab ancestry was very prized. This also created a mixed language. Swahili is a mixture of Bantu and Arabic. So I hope you understand or can see how mixed these areas were. Let's just take a look at the population growth in Africa. So even with that huge exodus of people, there's still large population growth in Africa as well. And that is the closing of the Indian Ocean Basin. Please don't forget to do the listening check and have a good day.